Hey, what up, everybody? Welcome to another episode from QTP It's my job here to teach you everything about being an awesome automation engineer while using the tool of Quick Test Professional. So let's get started right away. And today I want to discuss with you guys the pitfalls of record and playback. Now, you're going to be okay to watch this video and you will comprehend everything if you have QTP installed and you have the basic knowledge of how to open QTP and start a new test. The rest of the information afterwards, I will teach you. So anyways, let me talk about this subject, record and playback. I think that in the industry, there are many misconceptions that this is all there is to automation. That all automation is really clicking a button, performing some actions, and then running the script back and doing this over and over for multiple test cases. Well, what I wanted to do today was show you guys the huge problem with record and playback and how pretty much it's actually very inefficient in the real world and how it's almost never used unless you're just starting out and that's all you can do. So I think I have a very exciting video for you today where we're gonna run through some manual test cases, we're gonna automate them, and then I will show you guys why record and playback is not efficient at all, and it's something that you should definitely stray away from and focus on developing your skills much further than that so you are a much more useful automation engineer. So today, a few things we're going to discuss and I'm going to teach you. Okay, today's lesson includes expert view. I'll teach you guys that, show you what it is, show you how to operate within it. I will show you object repository. I will explain identification of objects. And through all of that, I will also explain why not to use record and playback. And with that, I will provide you more efficient solutions. So again, you would be a desired automation engineer as opposed to just a robot that records and runs scripts. So let's begin. I have actually pre-created some manual test cases that I want to go through. Let me show you guys these right here. And just so you know, I'm actually running on two screens. Therefore, you guys don't see my start menu. But I just wanted to have a clean screen for you guys so there's no distractions. And so whenever you're wondering where I'm pulling out these documents from, they're actually on my other screen so that it doesn't bother your attention and you can have extreme focus. So I've created the spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet called test cases, it has 3 test cases. We're going to open up Mercury Tours application and we're going to go in and register as a user. After we register as a user, we're going to sign on as that registered user. And then we're going to have a negative scenario where we're going to try and sign on as a non-registered user. And in this case, we're going to be expecting some kind of an error message so that we know that an invalid username and password don't allow us to enter the application. That would be a huge problem, right? So let's look in here. We have a test steps sheet. And by the way, notice these test case IDs. Okay, this is a unique identifier per test case. Okay, so if I was to put another one here, it'd be test case 004, and then 5, and so on and so forth. but they're unique, as in there will never be another TC001. And you guys will understand this in the future, why this is important, but think of it as just an identifier for your test case that if you're looking for TC001, there can only ever be one, whether that's in Quality Center or here in the spreadsheet. It's very important to have a unique ID. And this is actually a very useful technique for frameworks, which is the ultimate goal that I want to work you guys towards in developing a full automation framework where all you have to do is double click a button and then everything will run. But that's much later in the future. Anyways, let's move on. So let's look at the test steps sheet. In here, we have all of the test steps per our test case. And as most of you may know, a test step is just one step of a test case that we do to accomplish a goal, right? So for this one, our goal was to register as a user. So let me open up the application and I should go through these steps with you guys. Here's the application. So as you can see here in the application, this is the home page. So our test steps would be the exact steps that manually we would need to follow in order to get to our goal. So first thing was to open the application. Then we need to click on the register link. Once we clicked on the register link, we will need to fill out contact information, which is here. Then we'll fill out mailing information, which is here. Then we need to fill out new user information, which is username and password. And then we'll submit, and then we'll close the browser. And that's a test case right there. And we should be able to do that successfully, considering that this application is functioning properly. And if you imagine that you just got a release from your developers, this should function properly. And if you get any problems along the way, we will report them as defects. And so that's one test case. After we're done, we're gonna do a second test case. We're gonna try to log in as that registered user. So we're gonna make sure that the user was created successfully, stored properly in the database, and that now we can go ahead and log in with the credentials that we just created. So that includes all of these steps. And then finally, we're going to close the application, and then we're going to try to log in as an invalid user. And this is called a negative scenario because we are expecting some kind of an error message. Okay, so we'll do those three. We'll record and run them, and then I'll explain to you guys everything along the way. I think one more thing that I want to mention is there's these other two columns, input parameters and description, and I'll fill this in for you guys as we progress, and I'll explain it to you in much more detail. Okay, let's go ahead and open up QTP. We're just going to double click this icon. Give it a second while the license loads. Now we get our starting page opened up for QTP. I'm using version 11.0. Yours may look a little bit different depending on what version you have, and also you may have gotten a different screen before this, which was the add-in screen. I'm not going to go into detail with that because it's not the scope of the subject. But anyway, so let's go ahead and go to new. Just clicking on that will open up a new test. The first thing you get to see is called expert view. There are two views in QTP. There's the expert view. You can see the tab right here. And then there's also keyword view. We, as automation engineers, we're going to focus on using the expert view because that's where we can work the fastest, and that is where we are most efficient. And so I will not do a lot of focus on keyword view. I may do a video just to teach you what it does, but really Here I want to show you guys everything that you need to know about QTP and being an automation engineer without wasting your time. Because if you're not going to use it, why am I going to teach you, right? So anyways, let's go back to expert view. In here, the way this expert view works is you can type anything you want. Obviously, it has to be some kind of decent code. Equals to create just an example. Okay. Now I create an Excel object, and I can get access to all of its methods, as you can see here in the IntelliSense. This is what we can do in expert view. Pretty much anything we desire. Anything that we know about and any knowledge we have about VB script, we can utilize it here. Anyway, so let's get to the recording part of the application, and I will lead you guys through everything and do my best to explain. So before we even start recording, I want to teach you a very important statement that everyone should memorize. And it goes like this: system util.run. And now we're going to put in iexplore.exe. Okay? Now what this does is going to open Internet Explorer. Let me comment here for you guys. Okay? This also takes a second argument, which can be some kind of a parameter. In fact, we can also look at this here. If you put your cursor here and push F1, it's going to open up QTP's help menu. And we can look right here. So this is object.run, and let me select this. As you guys can see here, there are multiple run methods. This is not the one you want. We want system util. And here it is. So it runs a file or application. Okay? And here's what it takes: the file, and then parameters, and so on and so forth. So this is how you can learn more specifically about what it does, but I'm going to do my best to explain it to you guys. The other parameter that I'm going to pass in here is going to be the application path. And the application path of this application, let's go to the home page, is this. Okay? So now let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. And to run it, all you have to do is push the run button. Then we get this window that comes up. Now, very important, there are two options here. You can choose new run results or temporary. Most of the time, it's best to do temporary run results so that you're not saving your runs over and over, because most of the time you're debugging and you're running constantly. Therefore, you want to avoid creating thousands upon thousands of folders. So I'm going to select temporary, and I'm going to push OK. And it's going to start running. And as you see, boom, it opened up this website in Internet Explorer. This one line of code. So let me put more comments so you can understand. Second argument is the website that you want to open. Now, I know this is not part of record and run, but there's huge issues with recording and running and opening an application. And therefore, I'd rather teach you guys the correct way to open up an application right from the beginning, so that you don't need to waste your time learning the incorrect way and then figuring out how to fix it. I'm going to teach you this one line from the beginning, and then we're going to record the rest of the way. So just as more examples, guys, let me comment this. And when I comment something, it means that QTP is going to ignore it. This is not going to be executed. But let me just copy this. Let me copy this whole thing, actually. I'm going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to run just this one line, and let's see what happens. Okay, so it opened up Internet Explorer, and google.com is my home page because I didn't pass in a website, a URL. It just opened up my home page. That makes sense, right? Let me close this and let me do something else. It doesn't only have to be Internet Explorer. Let's try excel.exe. I wonder what it's going to do. Look, guys, it opened up Excel for me. And how do I know all these processes' names? Well, let's go to Task Manager, and you can see the process names here, guys. Something like Chrome.exe, Dropbox, Excel, Outlook, QTP, and so on and so forth. This is how you know, because you're passing the process here. And so any of these guys would work. And if you want to figure out other processes, you can go online, of course, and just do a Google search. So anyways, one more thing I want to show you. We can even do Firefox. Let's go ahead and run this. And it opened up Firefox for me. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably shocked because you have not done a lot of cross-browser testing, but it is something that I'm going to teach you guys here. Not today, it's a topic for the future, but I definitely want to show you because it's really awesome when you can run one script on Google Chrome, Firefox, and Internet Explorer at the same time, and you get triple the coverage for whatever application you're working on. So this will definitely come in the future, and I'm very excited to show you guys this video, but today is this not the focus. Anyways, so now that I think we have this down, we can go ahead and proceed. Let me uncomment, and throughout all these videos, guys, I'm going to teach you shortcuts so that you're more efficient, because honestly, every single second that you can save by typing faster, by using shortcuts, is going to give you that much more time for scripting and for planning and for thinking, and that's where you make all the big money as an automation engineer. So to uncomment, it's Control-Shift-M. I'm going to write that for you guys up here. Uncomment. Control-Shift-M. And to comment, it's Control-M. Like if I want to comment this here. So I can't show you guys the comment feature because I just realized that my screen capture software is not allowing me to do it. But it's okay. You can trust me. And if you ever forget, you can come up here and comment like this. And you can uncomment as such. Okay? And oh my God, I'm looking at the time. I can't believe it's been already 20 minutes and I have not even shown you guys how to record or anything like that. So let's go ahead and proceed with our recording. The first thing I want to do is run this line just to make sure to test that it works. We already know it works, but this is, let's say you were designing a script. This is kind of the procedure that you would just follow. It's called unit testing. Testing little pieces of code as you make it. So you can come up here and you can press run, or you can press F5. Much more efficient way of doing it. Then you get this dialog box that comes up again. We've seen it before. And then we get our application open. It worked, right? So now let me show you guys what recording is about. So first, let's go back to our test case and take a look at that. Here it is. So first, test case right here, test case ID 001. What we're going to do is we're going to open the application, we're going to register, we're going to fill out some information, and then we are going to close the browser. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So to start recording, what I'm going to do is press this record button. And shortcut for this is F3. So first thing you get is this window here. You can either have the option to record on any open browser, which is what I have right now, or it will automatically open you up some web page with some browser, okay? But this is preferable for our point. I'm going to hit apply just to keep these settings, and I'm going to hit OK. And look at QTP. It goes into this mode. If you look right here, it shows recording in the bottom right corner, so it knows that we're recording, okay? So let's go ahead and look at the application. And I want to show you guys one thing, and that one thing is called the object repository. Now, I'm going to open it. It's right here in Resources, Object Repository. This is our local object repository, and this is where all the objects and their properties get stored. Now, don't worry too much yourself about this right now. It is a very important thing, but I will explain it to you guys as we go along. So let's get the application, and let's watch what happens to the object repository, to expert view, as I do stuff to the application. So right now it's recording, and we want to go ahead and click on the register link. So I clicked on the register link. And this line of code appeared right here. Sorry about that. That's my mistake. I left the cursor there. It should appear right here. Okay? Anyways, let me put the cursor back here and let's continue. So I clicked on the register link, and you guys see that this code right here appeared. And also what appeared is a test object. It's a hierarchy of 3 objects, and that appeared in our application. Okay, let's continue going through it, and you guys will get more familiar. So now that we clicked on the register link, we need to enter some information, right? So first name, let me enter a username. Did you guys see that? So for this first name, this line of code appeared, and then we got another test object. Let me enter a last name and see what happens. Another line of code and another test object. Let's continue. Okay, let's see. Another line of code and another object. Let me enter email. Okay, let's move on to the next object. Look, another line of code and another test object over here in the repository. Now let me pause right here and do my best to explain all of this to you guys. I'm going to stop the recording by going up here and pressing stop. Shortcut key is F4. Okay, so let me explain to you guys what's going on. So let me bring up my notes here, and we'll discuss the object repository in huge depth, guys, because this is one of the most important things to QTP. So the object repository, what's its functions? It stores all of the objects, test objects, and their properties. If I could spell. Okay, so stores all of the objects and their properties. So what does that mean? Well, imagine like this. I like to consider an object repository just like a brain. So for example, if you had a friend named John and you wanted to identify John out of the billions and billions of people that exist, how would you identify him? So you have to identify John by a certain set of properties that he has, right? So for example, let's come over here and do this. John, a person. How do we identify him? Or, well, we don't even know that it's a him, right? We just know John as a person. How do we identify that person? Using a set of properties. So, what kind of properties can you use to identify John? Well, his first name, right? But that doesn't really help because there are many Johns in the world. So if you scream out, "Hey, John," you're probably going to get many people looking at you, and you're not going to be able to pick out the right one. So what else can you add to John to identify him? Maybe a last name. Another property. So what is the property's value? This is gonna, let's call him John Smith. Okay? Now, did you probably narrow down the field? Sure. You've eliminated other Johns, and now you've narrowed it down to all of the John Smiths in the world. Still, there may be a lot, right? What's another property you can use to identify him? Now, let's start thinking unique properties. So, for example, SSN, right? John is only going to have his own unique SSN. Now, can we say that with these three properties, we can identify our friend John Smith out of a population? I think so, because technically, if everything is correct in the world, no one else should have the same SSN as John Smith. Okay? Now, you may be wondering why I went off on this complete tangent about this guy, John Smith. Well, it's because it's very relevant to the object repository. Because the object repository stores all of the test objects and their properties. And this, based on these, QTP is able to identify the right object in the application. Okay? So it's like us. It's like our brain storing properties about John Smith with a certain SSN and being able to identify him because of these properties. The object repository stores properties about test objects so that it can uniquely identify them when it comes time for it to do some action on those properties. I'm sorry, on that object. So I hope that's clear to you guys. Just think of the object repository as a place that stores test objects and their properties. Okay? Now, let me go back to the object repository and show you guys what exactly I'm talking about. Now, if we shift our focus from John Smith to software world, John Smith, you can think of him as an object. In programming world, John Smith is an object, and that object can do things. And here as well, we have objects, and in those objects we do things. So for example, in our Mercury Tours application, we have an object called a web edit. And into a web edit, we can type in text. You know, in here, this is a web edit. It's an object. We have another web edit where we can type in text. And more web edits, and so on and so forth. Now, here's where the object repository and identification comes in place. Because, let's say, I removed all of this text. How do you differentiate one object, one web edit, from another web edit? You know, if I told you, hey, go enter first name in the first name web edit. How do you differentiate this first name web edit from this web edit? Well, it's very hard unless they have some kind of an identifier like this. And so this is how QTP identifies web edits based on the unique properties that these objects have. And these unique properties, you don't really have to worry about where they come from, but it's usually the developers that give them some kind of a unique property to identify the certain object. And almost every object should have some unique properties. Sometimes they don't, and we'll get into those issues with ordinal identifiers and so on, but in this case, they probably will. So let's look again at our object repository. So what do we have going on here? Well, we have the parent called test objects, and in here, everything is stored. Now, this is all stored based on a hierarchy. We have this object. You see this logo right here? It means it's a browser. In fact, we can see right here, Mercury Tours. Class is the browser. And the name, this we can change. Okay? For example, just to make it easier, you can get into good habit of recording very descriptive names for yourself. We'll call it IE. Okay? Because I know that this browser is Internet Explorer. It's not called Mercury Tours. But at the time of recording, that's what QTP decided to call it. Okay? But I'm going to call it IE. And you can change it to whatever you want. And then QTP also gave it some descriptions. Like, look, here, test object details. And it gave it a description. Now, let me show you what a browser is. If I wanted to take a look at this object in the window to see what object it pertains to, I can click this right here. It's called highlight, okay? And if I click this button, it's going to highlight. Did you guys see that? It's highlighting the whole browser because it identified the browser object, okay? And this right here is one of its properties, making it unique. Let's not worry about the properties for now. I just want you guys to get the lesson here of record and run. Now, inside of a browser, because right, Internet Explorer, there's a page. And this page is called Register Mercury Tours. Again, let's open up the object and take a look at it using highlight. So it's kind of hard to differentiate between the browser and the page, but that's always the hierarchy. You can think of the browser as the grandparent. The grandparent has a parent called Registered Mercury Tours, and then that parent has a child, and that child is a web edit. Whether it's a first name, a last name, a phone, or email, they're all siblings, because after this level, it usually doesn't go much lower. So let me write this out here for you guys. And as we look at the code, we can see that there's a browser called IE. And did you guys see that when I change the name here, it's reflected over here. This is the grandparent. Then we have the page, which is the parent. And then we have the child. Okay? And the child can do something. And this something is called a method. And this method is called a set. This is where we set a value to the first name web edit called test. Now, let me get into something else here with you guys. This part of picking what method to use in the application is the easiest part. The hardest part is identifying the unique object, because it always boils down to finding a unique object in the application so that you can do something proper to it, right? Like I said, if you can't identify John Smith out of all the people, how do you know, how can you ask John Smith to come with you to dinner or something? If you can't identify the proper web edit out of the application, how do you know where to put the first name, where to put the last name, where to put telephone number, and so on and so forth? And that is the hardest part. So let me show you guys that here as well. So all of this is called the where, right? Where to perform a certain action. In fact, let me write that for you guys. Where to perform a certain action. This is here. And then this is the action right here. Okay? Again, same thing over here. Comment, remember, over here. Where. And then action. Okay? Now, action and method is almost the same thing, but method is a programming term used to identify a set of actions that something does. It's interchangeable, but method is better to use. But I use action with you guys just so you understand better. Okay, so, wow. I'm looking at the time, guys, and I didn't realize that we're almost at 40 minutes. I can't believe how much I have to say about all of this. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a special video just on object identification and the OR, because I realize this is a huge topic and I want you guys to master it, because if you can master this, you will be awesome. Because I can't tell you how many people I've worked with who can barely even understand the object repository and how it functions. And I think if I help you guys to become experts in this, you're going to be that much more impressive at your job or your future job. So let me put this in a good color for you guys, just so that I don't forget. Okay? I'm going to do this for you. So in the meantime, let me continue with my lesson, which was the pitfalls of record and playback. We'll fast forward through that so I can show you and teach you. And then in the next lesson, I will continue explanation of the OR and object recognition in full detail, just so you guys don't miss out on anything, because I would hate for you guys to miss out on anything good information. So let's continue with the recording then. I'm going to put the application right here. And in fact, let's run the code from now, so you guys can see what's going on, okay? I'm going to close the OR, close the application. Always make sure that your application is closed before you run the script. I'm going to make this bigger, and let's just click the run button right here, right up here, run. Click on it, and let's see what happens. We get this window, okay? Our application comes up. It clicked on something, which I think was the register link, and then it entered all this information. Did you guys see how fast that was? How awesome is that, right? Anyway, so let's continue with the recording process, because I wanted to fill in the rest of the information, right? In fact, I want to make this, test user 1. Okay? Just going to change that here real quick. And let's continue with the recording process. Remember, let me click the record button. And I'm going to enter an address. Okay? City. Test. Oh, did you guys see? It's because I put the cursor again in the wrong place. So the code went in the wrong place. So let me take both of these. And you can edit in QTP while it's recording, no big deal. It's not going to record your actions in QTP. Well, let's call this city. Okay, now it's going to do it. It's going to put another code. Oh, and of course, again, I forgot to move the cursor. Put this right here. Put the cursor to the correct place. Guys, don't forget to put your cursor when you're recording. I don't record too often, so I'm a little bit rusty, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I definitely know what's going on, but this recording stuff is very useless, as I said before. That's why I'm teaching you guys to avoid it. Okay? So let me enter the state. State. Postal code 12345. Username. Let's call test user 1. Password test user 1. And then test user 1. And I'm going to submit. Okay? I submitted, and now I need to close the browser. Okay, awesome. Let me stop the recording. So, I actually had to run off for a few minutes, and I had to pause the video, guys, so I went and saved our script. But let me go ahead and show you guys how to do that, so you know. We'll go into File, Save As, and I saved it as empty registration, but I'm actually going to save it as empty register new user. Okay, that's a name of our script, and it goes into this folder structure right here. Under modules, I created a registration module, and we're going to place our current scripts in here. If you guys are interested in this folder structure, I have a special video just for that teaches you guys how to create an automation folder structure that will make you so efficient. Anyways, let me go ahead and save. Now it's saved. Let me tell you guys about one cool feature. Over here, you may have noticed that when we entered the password, it did not give us the actual password, which was the same as our username, which was test user 1. However, over here it did what's called a set secure method, an action, and it automatically encrypted our password. This is a cool feature of QTP, and I will definitely show you guys how to use it. There's actually a special tool, and I will have a separate video for that where I introduce you to all of the awesome QTP tools, and you can encrypt any password, and then if you pass the script off to any one of your teammates, nobody has to know the password that you used. And I noticed that we're running up to 1 hour here with this video, so what I'm going to do is we're going to finish up with the last few words, and we will continue in session number 2 for you, so that you can get a full understanding. I don't want to leave anything out for you guys. So let's go ahead and take a look at our manual test case. Let me pull it up here. Here's the data folder. Again, check out the folder structure. I have a special video on that. We're going to open this. And here's the test case that we created with our script. Register as a new user. Okay? So let me just make some comments in our script. We'll put this here, and purpose, register as a new user for the Mercury Tours application. Okay, this is just to keep track. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And we will pick back up in session number 2. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in with QTPtutorial.net. And I'll see you soon.